Paul Hamilton joining us very early on in the show as he's heading down to South Florida. Poor Paul's heading down to South Florida, which right now, have you looked at the weather, Paul? Do you know what it's going to be there?
I think it'll be in the 80s or whatever.
Nice.
Had a little power failure here at the airport. That's I was telling you how bad security was. So
yeah.
That's why it took me 40 minutes to get through security. But before I got here, there was a power failure. So that was the problem.
I was texting with Paul before the show. He was going to come on earlier because he's got a flight. And he's like, the line at the Buffalo airport is insane. And even Owen and Joe in here, same thing. Like, when has the line at the Buffalo airport ever been crazy? But that makes sense. There was a power outage? Okay.
Yeah, the TSA pre-check line was past the counters where the doors are to get out to the buses.
Okay. Well, you're the first person to ever have to deal with a super long line at the Buffalo airport.
So it still only took 40 minutes, which I thought was pretty good considering how long that line was.
That's an average day at the Orlando airport in my experience. So the game last night, Paul, They win 2-1, and how about Thompson? Like, how you felt like he started the game, and then for him to, because there were a lot of questions. I mean, Lindy talked about it, like, would they limit his minutes, or how ready would he be for this game? And I don't know how you felt about him shift by shift, but obviously both goals he has a huge hand in.
Yeah, he thought he was a little rusty to start since he hadn't been on the ice for a bit, and he went through everything that he went through, and. He and I kind of thought when I was talking to Bulldog on the pregame, I kind of felt this game would be an adrenaline game for him, and I think it was. Once he got going, he looked like Tage Thompson, looked really good, and yeah, it didn't look like they were limiting in his minutes at all. I mean, he was regular shift. He was out there. He was ready to go. He played really well. Where I would worry about it if I were Lindy Ruff is, all right, you got him through the first game. You have 3 and 4 days. There's going to be a practice day and then back-to-back.
Right.
I think I'd be more worried about the back-to-back than I was the first game coming back. So, we'll see if it was adrenaline or if he just is pretty good and in good shape. And, I'm almost wondering if they'll have him practice today. Or if they'll just give him the day off and let him get there and start the game tomorrow.
You got a heavy team coming too in Florida, so that type of game could be draining as well. That line last night, I thought they were the best line, and that's one where there have been a lot. There have been. It sometimes goes back and forth for me. There are a few games once in a while where Peyton Krebs is that high in a lineup, and it can look frustrating. But I feel like for the most part, Paul, like, he's exceeded expectations when he's playing with guys like Tage and with Tuck. And last night would have been one of those goals because, as I mentioned about Tage, like, huge hand in both goals. Obviously, Krebs, it was kind of flipped, right? They kind of made the same pass to each other across, and then each other scored the goals.
Yeah, for the most part recently, if you look, he's been putting up some numbers recently. It just looks to me like he's played enough there now that he's gotten his confidence back. His confidence that made him a number one pick. He was pigeonholed in a role that, he didn't, wasn't playing with players where his superior passing ability would be really matter or anything like that. And it seemed like he almost lost a lot of those skills and lost confidence maybe in a lot of those skills. But those were two supremely confident plays that he made, first, on the first goal, making a little bit of a shifty move to open up a passing lane to Thompson. Perfect pass over there. Thompson makes a great move, and you have a goal. And the other one, too, if you notice, when Thompson got the turnover, Krebs really took off, and there was a crease between the forward and the defenseman, and he just bolted for that crease and hit it. And that turned the play into a 2-on-1, and not only did he do that, that was a pretty nice goal. I mean, he had to place that puck pretty much where he placed it to get it in, and he did that. So, it just seems like he's been up on the line enough, and there have been enough for injuries that he's gaining confidence, I think, with every game doing it.
Paul Hamilton with us on the Western Hotline. He's heading to Florida. So the defensive effort, Paul, I mean, this includes Luukkonen and his effort, but I don't know. It's when I watch, especially when Samuelsson is out there, I feel like they are very good at shutting down other teams' top players. I mean, I saw when Samuelsson was out there last night, they outshot New Jersey 20-5. So maybe that's a more point about him specifically, but how'd you feel about that part of the game? And then Luukkonen too. I mean, I was wondering if he would get that first start or if Lyon would. And I mean, he looked healthy, he looked strong, and looked like a guy I think we'll see again in one of the next two games.
Once I heard in the morning skate that he was the starter, and I thought about it, it made sense to me because Luukkonen beat New Jersey in New Jersey. If you recall, he went into that game 0-4-2 or 0-4-1 on the road. He hadn't won on the road yet. He had done very well at home. And that was his first road win, a 3-1 win. He played very well and actually started him on this streak he's on right now, which is 8-2-1. That was the first game of the streak. And then Lyon, if you recall, right before the break, walked into Florida and beat the Panthers. So right. It wouldn't surprise me at all because they were alternating before Luukkonen got hurt. So it wouldn't surprise me if Lindy Ruff goes back to the alternating goaltenders. And he probably thought, okay, I'll put Luukkonen against New Jersey, and I'll put Lyon against Florida, since they both got wins there fairly recently.
Yeah, do you feel like we go right back to, there hasn't been a lot of times this year where all three goalies have been healthy, but when they are, Ellis kind of hangs out on the side, and it's a Lyon-Luukkonen rotation?
Yeah, I think it's a Lyon Luukkonen. I would think Luukkonen then gets the game in Tampa where they had this going on before. It was Ellis that got the game in Tampa when Lyon played in Florida.
Right. Paul Hamilton with us on the West Her hotline as the Sabres win 2-1 over the New Jersey Devils. All right, Paul, the two games coming up, like what should expectations be? Like given where they are, the third place in the standings now, that Florida back-to-back's always tough. It's like, is 2 of 4, do you think, acceptable, or should we be setting our sights a little higher here?
Well, Florida's a desperate team, or they should be a desperate team, so we'll see where that goes. Buffalo, I think it was a 5-3 win, if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning of the month, that they were able to win that hockey game. So, we'll see where Florida's at right now. The Sabres, proved that they kind of picked up even better where they left off. If you recall, they had lost 2 in a row and 3 out of 4. I thought once that game got into the second period, the Sabres were probably a little bit of the better team in this game against New Jersey. So, because they didn't get excited in the beginning when everything was mishmashy. They weren't passing well. The turnovers were high for both teams. And they just, you could see them, they simplified everything. They just put pucks in places they could go get them until they could maybe find their legs in the second period. And I thought they did that. And once they found their legs in the second period, I thought, they were pretty much the better team.
Last thing for you, Paul. So last night, we're going to start getting this a lot, I think, in the next week because the deadline's a week from tomorrow, trade stuff. And Vancouver scratched Tyler Myers last night because it sounds like there's a deal that's going to happen soon between them and somebody. Is that an idea that interests you at all, like him coming here and I would assume being like a third-pair guy at this stage in his career?
Yeah, definitely would. He or Justin Falk would interest me. They both have 1 year left on their contracts for approximately $6 million. And, Myers has a full no trade, and he's from the West. He played in Buffalo, and then he's played in the West ever since then. Since he left Buffalo and was traded to Winnipeg. So, and I read Dave Pagnotta said he's kind of balking at being traded. He wants to stay in Vancouver, but maybe he's warmed up to the idea if they pulled him out of the lineup, and which they did last night. And so we'll see. I definitely would be in on that because I'm looking for a defenseman if I'm Jarmo Kekalainen that can take some of the minutes away from the top four, not replace them, but from a third pair position, take more minutes than Kesselring or Metza or Bryson are getting. I think 23, 24, 25 minutes on a nightly basis for those four is way too much. I thought it started catching up to them before the break, and the schedule doesn't get any easier. So those two defensemen might be the only two that are, quote, available that I think could maybe come in and helps with some of those minutes and help alleviate that. That's the type of defenseman I'd be looking for.
Yeah, Myers played 20 minutes a night on average every year of his career but one, which was a couple of years ago. So, but I don't think you would need 20 minutes a night from him here. You would need 15, maybe.
And other than
16.
Dahlin, I think it would be ideal to get the Sabres' other 3 down to about 20, 21,
Yep.
22 with the schedule. If the schedule was normal, I might be saying something different, but it's not normal. So I think if you could get the other 3 down to 21, 22, which getting maybe one of those 2 defensive B. Now, Falk has a 15-team no trade, and I'm sure the Sabres are on it because when he signed that contract, you would have put the Sabres on. Everybody would put the Sabres on their no trade. But since the Sabres are a different team right now, playing well with a good young group, maybe if the Sabres were involved in a trade with the Blues, maybe he'd waive it.
Yep.
Say, oh, yeah, no, wait a minute. That was the old Sabres. I kind of like what I see there. Yeah, I'll go there.
Yeah, Falk leads the league in shot blocks, by the way, every season, or at least he's near the top of the list every season. So he's got a lot of ability, even still.
And he's younger than Myers by 3 years, maybe 4.
Yeah, I got him at 33, and I think Myers is 36.
Yeah, so 3 years.
Yep. Paul Hamilton on the Western Hotline. Thanks, Paul, for working us in here. Enjoy Florida, and we'll talk maybe tomorrow.
All right, take care.
Paul Hamilton on the Western Hotline. Justin Falk is $6.5 million for the next 2 years.